This will be the most important video you ever watch. Someone asked me to make a video, Zoltan, to make a video on mandalas and the history of them. And because of the way that my mind functions and having a blueprint for everything, I had to go over everything, all of it. We're going to talk about the church, talk about altars, sigils, mandalas, the entire spectrum of mind control and magic. And I'm going to do another video in the future, probably today even, specifically dealing with the church. But I will start here and before we get to the mandalas, because it needs to be said and people need to understand what's happening. When you go to a church, there's an altar there. Why is it called an altar? Because it's altering your mind. It's altering your brain. Wiccans and magicians of all sorts have altars. Why, if you go to a church, why do you think it's set up the way it is? It's set up the same way with the same magical rites and arts. The difference is one is done for self and for others by sitting there and consecrating the magic themselves and having their abilities to create for themselves and to make a better. I mean, again, they can do whatever they'd like, but in a church, they're putting a message out to the mass, and all of the mass is being altered and moved. So you walk up there and you stand in line for the bread and the body and the wine, and there's the fire. They have all of the elements there. To say the church isn't into magic is your mind has been altered by the magician, by the priest. Why do you think it's called the priest? The priestcraft? They're part of the craft. The craft is crafting with language, with sigils, with signs, with symbols, with glyphs. And their holy book, and this is why there's so many religions with god forms and egregors and all of the rites of magic. Everything that's inside of magic is inside of a church, and a church comes from kirk or circle. That's why you go to mass, just like in school you go to class, and you have a teacher and a preacher, and they stand in front. One person stands and everyone else sits there. At a lower level, they sit beneath, and they go through a rote learning cycle. Rote learning means to rotate, to go around in a circle. And the circle is the middle of the sun, the monad. So all of the information is delivered from the teacher and the preacher, and both of them deal with mass hypnosis. They deal with altering the consciousness of a group of people. Now, once again, this can be a good thing, but the way it's been used, because there are so many teachers and preachers that are already standing in line that don't know what the information means really. They're just spoon feeding the masses, and this makes people brain dead. Zombies. They're in the system of whatever it is that they choose. And there are more. All the churches, there are so many religions. Remember, religion is a legion to something. To be again a legion to something. And it's all division. And so each one of these letters makes words, and these letters are hieroglyphs. They're symbols that become sigils. And in and of themselves, they have their god forms. In and of themselves, they are. This is why you can create a sigil out of that, and it has a meaning because it speaks to the subconscious. It's a point of focus, a point of reference. Now, in the church setting, the point of focus is the sound and the alteration that's coming from the priest wearing his robe. Everybody thinks of, black robes are evil if it's in the satanic occult self-worship, but they just don't know what any of that means, despite sitting there in a church staring at the preacher wearing the black or white robe, showing that with a little white piece of the neck, showing exactly what craft they're doing. Most preachers wear black with a little bit of white. And if you can't figure out right off the bat that they're dealing with very heavy magical black arts with a tiny bit of white coming out of their throat, a little bit of white, but 99% dark. If you can't figure that out, you don't know what's going on, and I'm explaining it. You go to school and you go through your 12 years, the 12 cycles, the 12 signs, the 12 symbols, the 12 around the one, the 12 apostles, the 12 months, the 12 hours. So you go to those 12 school years, and then you get a black cap. And that black cap, if you don't know what it's called, it's a mortar. It's another brick in the wall that's being built by a system. That mortar cap, it's flat. It flattens the head into four corners. So it is squared. You being the circular entity of everything, it squares you and puts a cap on you. It limits you. It stops you. So in that schooling system, wearing the black caps, it is perfectly aligned to the same magical arts as a church is. Now, as we dig deeper into these mandalas, because someone was curious about the mandalas, think about time. The Mayans, M-A-Y-A, Maya, Ma, material. Mandala, M-A, Ma. It's dealing with taking a two-dimensional thing. Here's how it works. You take a two-dimensional papacy, paper, father, figure. You cut the tree. The tree is the father. You make it into pulp. You mix it with water. You heat it up. You're using the elements. And you press it into a two-dimensional flat surface. And then use the pen or the pencil, which is the pentagram, and you write on the papacy, and you make a symbol. Now that symbol can be a singular god, which is one of the letters, although they're just really demigods, and by putting them together to make mandalas, you're making a more of a god form. So in the sense of what the Mayans did, you take this two-dimensional surface, and you create what is time. You create time by writing out that. So, the Mayans were so advanced. Well, yes, they were. They made magical calendars of time that so many people lived on. And so even that was a magical art and a crafting of something. And so the pen putting this two-dimensional thing on a surface, this two-dimensional, and here you can go in two ways. You can make sigils that are rectilinear, meaning it's balanced on every side, and you can make sigils that are not. This has to do with using different shapes within making a sigil or making a mandala, because a mandala is just a much more complex, larger sigil, and that has to usually do with landscapes and timescapes. So you create these mandalas on this papacy to take a two-dimensional thing and bring it out into a three-dimensional reality. And how it's done is after putting it there, it's literally creating itself in time, in what you consider linear time, just by being made, and then by focusing on it. Just like this picture over to the right of the monad, it's a circle. That's the most basic concept. That's your pineal gland in your head. That's why you go out and you stare at the sun, because it's a point of focus and reference that has all of creation inside of it. And the next symbol up is more of like a pushing out of the ideas of the perceived dual reality into a circular format, into what's around you, your aura, your area, the circle that you live in. So these mandalas, again, as taking the father and the mother, the male and the female, and putting them together on the papacy with the pen, which is the ink, which is your kin, which is the blue and the blood. This is why I use blue ink to write something down. You create that two-dimensional thing, that two Ds, which one D is half of a circle, two Ds, so two-dimensional, is a full circle, which is literally half of the sun and half of the moon. That idea. And so this magic is done at night, in the evening, with Eve, with the magic, magnetic presence of the moon to pull something out of that surface in the darkness. That's why it's usually done at night. There's a lot of reference there. And then it pulls it, and then it spits it out of the sun the next day. This has to do with the dream world and creating um, mystical, magical experiences at night, and these symbols at night. That's what that has to do with. And so these, getting farther into these mandalas, once again, they're usually done in balance and in harmony. So we see that when they use it in a very advanced way, it looks like the gears to a clock, and it's all balanced to show you north, south, east, and west. There's always the four there. If you look to either one of these symbols, you have the very powerful, strong, four-sided something. So you see the circle around the square, and the four sides to that square, meaning that a vision, a circular entity, a circular, singular, everything vision was put inside of something. Where in certain crafts, what they teach you to do is square the circle. It means to put four walls around a circle. And that's something that happens when you go into a church. There's four walls. Or you go into any box. They box you into an idea. Now, again, these can be you can choose to do these things. You can do these things and be part of things for periods of time as part of your process and your learning. But as the holistic system goes, what you become is you want to circle these things. You want to make your own. You want to make the altar yourself. But don't ever get it confused. If you think for 1 second the church is some um, uh, enabling device, no, it's enabling the church. It's enabling the succubusing of the church, and you're under the mind control and the spell. It's literally they're using spelling to spell words to you. You sit down, they tell you when to stand up, you stand up. They make a sound, you sing with them. And now all of these things can be good and holy and holistic and wonderful and magical, and there can be great fun and wonder and dance and all of these. There can be great things in there. But it's been used by the least among us. It's been used by ones that would control and architect control to the point of making people into this. Goes farther and farther into this to the hive mind, which goes into, I've done these other videos on this. It goes into the Wiccan and the why candles are used. And again, Wiccans use candles in their own ceremonial purposes. They're not controlling other people per se, and they know that if they do a spell outside of them, outside of their tiny little space, that if they do something that is um, evil in nature, that it comes back to them. But see, in the church, what's happening is all of these people are at their altar. I can't make this clear enough. If you are sitting there at your own altar, you're altering the things for yourself and for your own reality. And so the only thing that has anything to do with that is you. But if you're in a church, you're at someone else's altar. And so these masses and classes and groups of people that are inside of a building, inside of this four wall with all of this, when we get into what are the materials, what is everything made of? Oh, you can see right there, there's the fire at the church. There's the fire element on their altar. And then we've got the wine, which is symbolic for for the blood, and then you've got the body, and then you've got all of these magical things. It's exactly the same thing. They're performing the same thing, but now with a large group of people that are having their minds altered and adjusted. Make no mistake about it. That's what's occurring. And they're using the symbols and the signs, and they're using in some churches they use dance, and some they use language, and some they use symbols, and most of them they use the whole gambit of these things. Same time every week, they lock you into, we're going to do this at noon on a Sunday. Noon on a Sunday. Why is it high noon on a Sunday? What are they showing you? What are they doing? So, what else didn't I cover here? He really wanted me to get into Zoltan want me to get into the use of. Oh, so here we go. Just this is charging symbols. You would say Om, right? So Om is the sound that radiates energy through your body when you do it the right way from your belly, from lower realms. So you take it up through your body, and Om is the same name that's given in the electrical world for resistance. And so you can charge symbols with that. And you charge these symbols inside of your mind because it's a point of focus, just like that monad in the middle you focus on. And then it brings that into your mind, into your space of creation. And if your waters are clean, once again, if you've cleaned your brain out, if you've cleaned out the waters of your skull and your head, then you have a still looking glass. You have a still mirror, a still lake, and the reflection will come back perfectly. So whatever you design, if you have a clean body and a clean temple, it will come out into your 3D reality through your own um, the way that you spit out reality, the way that your harmonics work, the way that your organs work, the way that because you are the orchestrator and you have organs in your body, if those are clean and playing the right harmony, then what comes out forth in front of you will be perfected and it will look exactly like what you envisioned. However, if your temple is dirty and everything's inside of your body is messy, and your blood is filled with iron and your brain is filled with heavy metals, well, don't be surprised if things don't come back perfectly. And so while these larger churches may have had a very good intention at one time, the people started to consume the blood of animals, started to consume heavy metals and plastics and poisons and toxins and all of these things. And so the bigger vision started to decay and break down. And the bigger vision wasn't seen anymore. Everyone became blinded to it. Now, I don't know if this was on purpose through the church or it was individuals that didn't understand what the church was teaching, because that could be a possibility. But where we are now is the masses, and whether or not and here's the thing, it's the masses that are consuming all of these things that they should not be, and they're destroying a vision for themselves and for the church. And the church, the people that are in the place of power, the priestcraft, the priesthood, the ones wearing you know the capes, the ones wearing the black and white symbolic um, cloaks, the ones that are their brains are even hijacked. And by what? Is there a larger entity at work here? I don't know. I don't think so. I think things just went off of track. I think things just went awry. And these people that are in these positions of authority and power, meaning authorship, because they've authored something, they have to look and say, wait, did I author that? Oh, and as soon as they come to the conclusion that they're using a book that they didn't author and they don't even know what it means because they're reading it from an exoteric rather than esoteric standpoint, people are all missing the mark. They're sinning, missing the mark. It means to throw an arrow, to shoot an arrow and miss the center dot of that monad, the center dot of your pineal gland, the center point of the mandala. And so by cleaning up the bodies, cleaning up the temples, things can be, come clear. And so the purpose here is to get to that. And I want to finish this off here with the use of the candle in putting it in the middle of a monad, putting it in the middle of your sigil, putting it in the middle on top of that two-dimensional scape, which is the mandala. So you're binding the papacy, the father, the tree, but you're containing the fire within the wax of the hive. So the hive is the hexagram. The hive is controlled by the queen bee, and so you contain the wick and the fire within the wax of the hive, the hexagram, the hexing of the hive. Put it on top of a mandala, which is a two-dimensional surface. So now you've brought light to the hive and to the mandala. So you've bind the queen bee mother with the papacy, the king and the queen. You bind them together and you burn the light, and then you're able to light up the Light up the ideas, the mandala, the vision, and that point of focus on that candle. If you use if you use beeswax, you'll notice an aura around the candle. But if you use other elements such as soy or other waxes, you won't see that. It has something to do with the beeswax that puts off, I believe it's an ionic charge into the air, but the aura around that candle, you'll see it. It's obvious. Put two, if you get a chance, get two candles, one soy based and one um, wax, like from a beeswax, and light them both and in the dark and look at the candle, and it'll be very obvious. You'll just like the drawings that you see in cartoons. There's always that aura around it. So you're binding the king and the queen together for a vision to be made, and then you take that when that focus is put onto that after going through a ceremonial process and putting this candle there. You take it off, and that vision is held within there. So I think that about covered everything. Once again, if there's any more questions, get back at me and share this video with people. Subscribe. I mean, I'm telling you, this is the whole thing. No one's telling you this. I'm giving you the entire. It's free right now. It's just I'm throwing it all out there. I have the blueprints for everything. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll try to do another one specifically on the church. And anybody wants me to, that you have ideas for or that you're confused about, let me know, and that way I can make a video for you. And in fact, think about other people that you know, and what don't they understand, and what might help them understand. What could just put a little bit of an idea into someone's ear, so they can start to unravel it themselves. Because I'm not telling you what to do here. You see, I'm giving you the whole thing, the whole landscape, so that you can cleanse your body and create for yourself. Because I know that you would do it in harmony. Because everyone's seen the world. It's chaotic. It's ridiculous. There's too much. There's too much filth out there. There's too much filth in your body. So we tell you how to clean yourself out, and this is why it's best to clean yourself as you're making these alterations to your consciousness through mandalas. Make alterations to your temple, body, self by cleansing it, and then you can have a more precise vision of what you want come back to you, and everyone can. We could all live in a wonderful place. It doesn't require much. It requires you taking care of yourself, and by taking care of yourself, you can much more easily take care of others. Cheers, everybody.